Today, we're going to be talking about credit cards. Credit cards is such a controversial topic. I used to be against credit cards big time, and I was really uneducated about credit cards. My parents were always my mom worked in a bank. She was always very heavily against them, and what I found was that I kind of just followed their advice without doing my own due diligence. So with that in mind, as someone who was completely against them, I've kind of flipped my mindset towards them now, where I've actually got a credit card and they've actually worked out in really beneficial ways for me. I'm going to explain a bit about how you can exploit them and why they can be a good thing. There is one rule of thumb that comes with credit, and that is if you are not disciplined and you are the type of person who can't really control your spending, credit cards aren't for you. Stop watching the video, don't bother with them. They're not going to add value to your life, especially if you can't control yourself. First, I would definitely recommend working on that before going out and basically taking out a walking loan. But if you are someone who is relatively disciplined and good with your money, which hopefully you're watching this video because you are, this should be insightful. So I have a rule of thumb with credit cards, and that is that what you have as spending money is what you are allowed to spend on a credit card. My credit card limit is $15,000, which is quite a large and high limit. I wouldn't recommend that at all. Like I said, I feel like I'm quite disciplined and I've had it for over a couple of years now, and I'm pretty confident with it. If I have $300 in my spending account, I won't spend more than $300 on my credit card, and I don't spend just to spend. Credit cards can be a really useful tool. And what I've found is that I now make all my purchases on my credit card for a few different factors. So I generate frequent flyer points. So in Australia, Qantas is our airline. Hopefully it doesn't go bust in this trying time, but essentially I use my credit card to generate points, and I will show you in a little bit how I have manually kind of tracked it just for information purposes and how much it actually does add up to. First, just kind of an abbreviation as to why people use credit cards. So the main reason is rewards. Lots of credit cards offer rewards programs because banks want you to spend on the credit cards, forget that you've made purchases on them, and then end up costing yourself interest and then making a high return on your, for lack of a better word, laziness. People use credit cards because it's generally very safe to buy through them. They have very good frauding systems, and they're generally better in terms of if someone steals your card, it's easy to cancel that than close a bank account. Just canceling a card can be done through any in-house phone app, so it's quite beneficial in those kinds of terms. If it's something that worries you, generally they offer really good outs to big problems. On top of that, they offer other perks like things like travel insurance and rewards programs as well, like I said, in other forms, but that's more generalized on the type of card that offer is being promoted to. So general rule of thumb, why people use them is mainly for rewards. I know some people use them as lifelines. Personally, I would rather not do that. It's not a good idea to get yourself into debt, even if you have to. Only if you had to, it would be a last resort. So moving on, I have a few rules of thumb when it comes to looking for a credit card and the criteria that needs to meet. The first thing is that the card needs to be free. If it's not free, I wouldn't go near it. If you have to spend money to be able to spend money that technically isn't yours, it's credit, don't do it. I'm going to show you an example in this video. If it's not free, don't go near it. Some credit cards come with spending requirements, and it's only okay if you intend to spend money to meet those requirements to get, let's say, a reward. Otherwise, if it says you have to spend $1,000 a month not to pay interest on it, which I haven't really heard of these, but I know they do exist, again, don't touch. And thirdly, it needs to kind of offer you some kind of reward. If you're going to sign up and go through all the process to get one and not get anything out of it, what's the point? Generally, the easiest way to get a reward out of a credit card is through points. So that would be your recommended go-to. And like I said, in the example that I do show you today, I'll show you one that I recently signed up to and have recently canceled. I kind of exploited it a little bit, which worked out nicely for me. I got basically return flights to a local state in Australia, which worked out really nicely for doing nothing other than just going about my day and spending on that card instead of my other cards. Some ancillary information. So you don't need to have a credit card with your main bank. So you can be with the Commonwealth Bank of Australia and you can have a credit card with ANZ. You don't have to create bank accounts. You don't have to create anything other than what it takes to sign up to the establishment, which is a pretty simple process. And again, I'll show you just some quick run throughs of what the process looks like. But yeah, it's nothing really to worry about. It's something that is okay to have. And like I said, I have accounts with multiple banks. I have cards with multiple banks. Nothing wrong with it if you have a purpose for that. You got to make your money work for you. So as an experiment, when I got my credit card a couple years ago, I decided to track all my expenses on it just to generally see how many points I generated from it. My Qantas app and my actual credit card doesn't show me exactly how many points I get over the course of a year. So like I said, I want to track it manually. It's something I don't mind doing. And what's come out of it, as you can see here in the total section, I'm going to zoom right in. As you can see, I've spent about $56,000 on the card in 2 years, which might seem like a lot of money, but I'll tell you how some of that accrued. And I've accumulated about 42,000 points, which I get, I think, 0.75 points for every dollar that I spend. Some cards are higher, some cards are lower, but again, you're going to take the win at the end of the day. So if I just scroll through, I've just created lines in an Excel spreadsheet in my tracker. What you're looking at is all my expenses, every dollar that's gone through it. I just look at my statements in my banking app, pull out the numbers, pull out the reason, because I'd like to see how frequently I spend in specific locations. I can work out how much I've spent on fast food in a year, etc. And yeah, so basically it's a bottomless checklist, and every week I just add something else. So if I type in haircut, and let's say I put $5,000 in for this haircut, real expensive haircut, does the maths for me, 3,750 points coming my way at the end of the month. So a good example of a website that allows you to compare credit cards in different categories. So best credit cards, balance transfer cards, and frequent flyer cards in Australia specifically is Finder. You can literally scroll through every card on offer at the moment, see what bonus points you get for spending. So here is the rewards points per spend. So if I filter that on, you'll see that you can get 2 points for every dollar spent through Coles. If you're a good and disciplined person who's not going to basically get caught on interest, you don't even need to worry about the purchase rate. This purchase rate here essentially explains how much you have to pay in a repayment if you don't pay off the card before the end of the month or before the end of the number of days that you have to pay it off. Each card is different, so do your due diligence and check. The ones that have annual fees, look at this one here, it has 0 annual fee. It's just a Qantas frequent flyer Amex card, 0.75 points per dollar spent. And you can go to the site and sign up from there. So yeah, there's just one example of me typing in credit cards Australia, and you can literally see all of the credit cards in here. So let's just have a quick scroll through, look at how many there are. Plenty of selection choices. Now the juicy stuff, how to exploit credit cards. So like I said, I only have one for a reason. I'm trying to obtain something at no extra effort towards my daily routine. So in Australia, there is a website called Ozbargain where people basically find deals and post the information to the website for everyone else to enjoy. So this one here is just one example where I came across, it's a ANZ frequent flyer card. So it's just a ANZ credit card. They were offering 75,000 bonus Qantas points when you spend 2,500 on eligible purchases within the first 3 months of approval. So I said, hey, I roughly spend about that every month anyway on bills and just general spending, which might seem like a lot, but again, I'm going to tell you how to exploit it in the next step. But this is a prime example of something that I went, hey, I meet all the criteria, which I read. I only read one line, read the rest. I signed up to the card before the end of the day by literally clicking go to deal. Could have done it through the website, could have called them. There's many ways to sign up to it. The process, I needed to fill in some personal information, provide some ID and 2 pay slips, and then I waited for the card to be delivered. I got approved for it, no problems at all. And within the span of a week, I had the card. Within the span of a month, I'd spent $2,500 on it, got my points in my account, and then I literally called them and said, hey, I want to cancel the card. They asked no questions. I cut it up in front of me and I'm back to my old credit card. Happy days, 75,000 points for doing absolutely nothing. So generally anyone who's paying bills or spends money regularly, I would recommend having a credit card under your belt for the purpose of earning some type of reward for spending money that you're going to spend anyway. Other way to exploit credit cards is to put big purchases through people you know. Now, this is subjective to the people that you have around you. But for example, if my parents do renovations or my parents go out for big purchases, I will ask them to put it on my credit card and then get them to transfer me the money. I do the exact same thing with my friends, my sister, my girlfriend as well. And it's not really very difficult to do that process. And I've actually probably racked up more than half of that $56,000 spent in the last year and a half from other people. It would be a lot of money for me to spend $50,000+ in a year and a half. So like I said, I've kind of exploited it by putting those big purchases through my friends. It's something that you should keep at the back of your mind when getting a credit card or even when moving towards getting a credit card, because it can be really beneficial. I have accumulated, since opening my Qantas frequent flyer account, about 200,000 points in total from other credit cards and other means of earning points, which I believe it's not far off of upgrading to a business class or first class flight. If not, it's for Classic Rewards, which is a program through Qantas. by spending points, I can fly to Sydney, to Melbourne, return for about 20,000 points and maybe $50. It's something that is definitely worth considering if you are the type of person who is disciplined, can do the initial setup and then manage it from then on. You don't need to track every expense like I do. You just need to make sure that your credit card balance is zero at the end of the month. And it's generally something that I would now recommend, purely because, like I said, if you are disciplined and you can manage your finances well, you're not going to have too much trouble managing this, and it's going to be something that over time will definitely benefit you. I didn't realize how fast the points would compound, but with 2 credit cards in the span of less than a year and a half, 200,000 points is not a bad feat. And as these deals and bonuses come around, which they do almost every year, it will be definitely something I'll be jumping on to earn more, assuming that the points are still worth something after this crisis ends. But yeah, something to think about, something to just do some research on. It was really exciting getting myself into this position, and I'm sure that it will be for you as well. At the end of the day, I benefited from it, and that's why I'm passing on the information to you. Hope you enjoyed the video. See you in the next one.